Hello everyone, it's Amy and welcome back for week 71 of Build Your Stash and Craft. This week we are going to make burlap roses, and this is just a box of roses that we had left from my daughter's wedding. And you can make two-tone roses, you can make smaller, tighter roses, larger roses. You can put a little rose bud in the center. You can make rosebuds. So I'm going to show you how to make these. They're really, really simple. There is a little waiting time because you have to wait for your glue to dry. But so what I'm going to show you is I'm going to show you how to make a bud. They're really all made exactly the same, but I think it will be easier for you to see with a smaller piece of fabric. So this is just the fabric that I bought from Walmart, and this is, it's 1/3 of a yard wide, which means that it should be 12 inches wide. And I think it's a little wider because they always give you just a touch extra. I'll grab my ruler here. Yeah, it's probably 13 inches wide. Because your edges, they don't cut the edges necessarily straight. So, but what we're going to do here is, the way to start is you have to decide the wider that you make your strip of burlap, then the taller your rose will be. And I'm talking about the height here. So this rose, this little kind of medium rosebud is, let's see here. We'll measure it. Okay, from top to base, it's 1.5 inches. So to make 1.5 inches tall rose, and they're also fuller and everything, the wider that you make your strip. So 1.5 inches, you would cut a 3-inch strip because we are going to fold these strips in half. So we'll do one that's a 3-inch strip, and we'll see. This is a little bit short, but we'll see how well it works. Okay, we'll see how full it gets. So what you want to do is just take your ruler and measure about 3 inches. Now this one, because this is the good side, they already have it sewn and everything, but we're going to put a strip of glue right down the edge here. So I'm going to measure from that bit there, not from the fray out here. I'm going to go 3 inches, and 3 inches is right about there. So this is what I'm going to do. You start at the edge, go about 3 inches, and you find a string. Now some of your strings are kind of heavy, and some of your strings are super thin. So try and find one that's a little heavier, because your measurement doesn't have to be exact. Get that out of my way. And then what you're going to do, this string right here, if I can kind of separate it out, this is the one that's at 3 inches. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to grab that string and I'm going to start pulling it. Hold on to it with your other hand and then get a hold of it again. Then kind of slide the fabric down and then hold it and get a hold of it here. And what we're going to do is we're going to pull this string out. By pulling out this string, I'm just going to try and get on the fabric here. Whoops, and now I broke it. You want to be careful about breaking it. If you do, just find it again. And you have to do this kind of slow. Just pull on it and then work your fabric down. And then get a hold of it closer to where you're at and then work your fabric down. What this is doing is it's completely going to remove this string from our burlap, and that's going to give you a straight edge. It's easier to work with a straight edge, because if your edges are crooked, like I'm going to show you the what I did with the ribbon, but that's a little bit crooked. It's harder to get finished at the end. So I just keep pulling this fabric down, moving in, pull this back. There we go. Okay, now that's out. Now that it's out, you can see that right here there's a line. That's my straight line. And that will be perfectly straight with your burlap. So what we're going to do is we're just going to cut our burlap now, just outside that line. And there we go. Now we have a piece of burlap that is straight. And then we are going to take our glue and we're going to put this on parchment paper. You'll need a piece of parchment that is as long as your strip so that because we're going to put glue on this and the glue is going to soak through. We're going to just put that on our parchment. I'm going to shake up my glue. Whenever you have the white school glue, always try and remember to give it a good shake, because sometimes it gets a little watery on top and more solid on the bottom, and you want to make sure your glue is done well. Now, you can see where I pulled the string out. There's my line, and I have a little bit on the outside where I cut it out. So what I want to do is on the inside of my line and on my line, I want to put a nice bead of glue. And it really will help if you take the cap out of the glue first. There we go. Now I think it just might work. Okay, so we're just going to put a bead of glue, just a nice heavy bead of glue. And just kind of put it on there and kind of rub it in at the same time. Keep it kind of straight. And once you do this on your parchment, don't move it on your parchment because you don't want the spot where the glue went through your fabric onto the parchment. You don't want that glue to get in the middle of your burlap. Okay, and I'm just going to turn my parchment around. Even though this side is sewn, we're going to pull our strips out of here, and that will weaken this edge. So I am going to put the glue on this edge also. Now this is the hard part. The hard part is now you have to set it aside and you have to let it dry. And it takes a while to dry. There we go. So now I'm just going to take this, set it on my counter, and let it dry, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, I am back, and this is pretty well dry. You do want it to really be good and dry. It was dry pretty much on the top, and when I peeled it off the parchment, it was kind of wet on the bottom, and so I just hit it with the heat gun a little bit, and I'm going to trim off all this little extra fringe that was on there. Come over, well, I guess I can do it here and brush it off. I'm just going to trim off this fringe just because it's going to kind of be in our way and we don't need it to be there. And then I'm going to show you how to prepare this to make your flower. I also have one made out of the pink ribbon that I got from the Dollar Tree, the burlap ribbon. I'll just get rid of this now. So we got this ribbon at the Dollar Tree, and all I did with this was I cut off a piece. Actually, it's a little over 3 feet long. I didn't realize it was that long. And so I just took a piece of this and cut a long strip, and then I glued along both edges. So, but see, this is not super straight, so I'll show you what little bit of a problem that causes, but it's definitely still okay. All right, so now what we're going to do is our glue comes to about here. So we're going to go past our glue and grab a string and just grab one string at a time because these are oppositely woven. So if you try and do 2 at a time, you're going to give yourself a lot of headaches because what it's going to do is, and I'm just pulling on this and working the fabric basically off of that string. Once it really gets going, that string just pulls right out, and there we go. And see, there it is missing. And I'm just going to grab the one next to it. And I did come over a little bit too far, so I'm going to go towards the glue side and get rid of that one. And now I'm going to start going towards the middle. But yeah, because they're woven up and down and up and down and then down and up and down and up, if you grab two at the same time, they do not pull out very easy, and they want to pull your side strings, which you need, the strings that are going this way, they want to pull on those because basically they're causing a little bit of a clamp. And on your ends you will have some that come kind of loose, and you really can't help that. But you don't want, and you're going to kind of pull those back. You don't want to dislodge all of them by trying to do too many at one time. So just one at a time. It's a little bit time consuming, really not too bad. And the cool part about this is now we're going to have all of these burlap strings, and you can use these to tie around a card, to tie around a tag, just to put some extra dimension on it. A lot of people put ribbon on a card across, or washi tape or something, just to give it some look, and or a different look. And so you can put this on a card or on a tag, or use it to tie up a little package, because we only did this one just over a foot long. These strings are not super long. But the pink one that I did, like I said, I did it just a little over 3 feet long. And so I have 3 foot long pink burlap strings, and quite a few of them. So, and I'm just continuing one at a time, pulling these out. I could quit right here and just show you how to use the pink one, but I want to go ahead and get these out so that I can show you from start to finish how this one's going to look. Now, usually when I do shorter lengths of the burlap, like this is only about 12 inches long, I usually also do a skinnier width, because it makes a little bit of a smaller flower that way. So I think we did this one, I think we did it at 3. You could try it at 2. You wouldn't want to go 1. That's really too skinny. I think 2 is probably as skinny as you're going to want to go, because we still have to fold it in half. And we're getting close. A little bit time consuming, but it's kind of cool too, because these strings are, some of them are fat, some of them are skinny, and so that makes it fun to put on a card or something. And they even look nice. You can kind of flower them up and put them behind one of your paper flowers or something. Kind of like do them like this, and do like 3 or 4 of them, put them together and put them behind a flower. That looks really, really cute. If you have any of these short ones come out that are going this way, those work really well to make those little loops and put behind flowers, or even behind a tag or behind an embellishment just sticking out there. And we're just going to go until we hit the spot where our glue was. And that's why, this is why you want them to be, see, now I just accidentally grabbed 2, and boy, it was pulling really hard. Well, this is why you want your glue to be pretty good and dry, because you don't want that glue to let loose and let all of these little strings, see how now it's all these little strings? If your glue lets go, those little strings are going to just kind of be everywhere, and your flower's not going to work. So don't get too impatient. Like I said, I let it dry for 3 hours. When we made the ones for my daughter's wedding, we just laid out a whole bunch all at once and glued them all at once, and then we just let them sit overnight, and that worked out really, really well. Today I'm going to try and glue these together, not this part, but when we roll it, I'm going to try and use my glue gun. Okay, see, now this string that I'm pulling on now is glued in down here at this end. So I am going to see if I can separate it a little bit, because it's only just an inch or so. Oh, I guess it was more like 2 inches. I'm pulling it out of the glue, and then that will be my last one, because I know that next one is going to be stuck in the glue too. So this is what it winds up looking like. So now you only have strings going this way except on both edges. I'm going to set these strings aside. And what I did with my pink strings, I'll show you. I just lined them all up, and then I used one of our clothespins, and I just opened it up and stuck them in there and let it go, and then I just wrapped it around the whole thing till I got back to the end, and then just pulled it through. So now these right here, I can just pull them out of there and then unwrap one and then just put them back. So, and you'll have lots of that when you make these flowers. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to take our flowers and we're going to fold them in half like this. So they make basically what I was just showing you with the others. They make this little loop. So now if you line them up, you don't want them to be off center because they don't fluff out as much. So you do kind of want to line them up well. And normally I would glue this with the Elmer's glue or with tacky glue and put a little piece of parchment and a clip on it, or set some parchment on it and put a book on it and just let it sit just this part so it would glue together, and let that dry. But we're going to try hot glue. We have to roll these. That's why I'm thinking hot glue's not going to work super great, but I'm going to see if I can get away with just kind of gluing it in a few spots and maybe not gluing the whole thing. Now that hot glue is going through my burlap. I'm going to bring my parchment back up here. I definitely don't want to stick to my paper down there. And I'm just putting just a little bit on the part that is where we glued it before. And I think that with the hot glue especially, well, with the hot glue, because with the regular glue you're going to let it sit. But with the hot glue you're definitely going to want to make sure that you roll it up right away, because that's going to get really hard. And so then what we do is you just start at either end and you just roll this part that we glued, the part that was glued both times, and you just roll that up. And you want the beginning part to be tight, and to be nice and tight, and just go ahead and roll it. I'm going to put just a little bit of glue on here so it doesn't come unrolled. It does seem to be working okay with the hot glue. And just keep that nice and lined up. Don't let it get too far off kilter, because that will also make a difference on how your flower turns out. And just roll it all the way till you get to the other end. And this is what we have. So see, if I had made that not quite as tall, it would have been a little bit of a smaller bud. And now what you do, you can do one of two things. You can take it and you can fluff it like this, or you can just take it, hold it by the part that you glued, stick it on your table, and just give it a mash and a swirl, and that will just spread it right out for you. And there is one of our burlap roses. And see, it wouldn't have wound up anywhere near this big had we done it like 2 inches instead of 3. So now I'll show you the pink one that I did. Here is our pink one. And so the only thing is, and that's why I pulled a string on the white fabric to give us a nice straight line instead of just cutting across, because see how these are not cut straight. So when I got to this end where actually it's at the other end, it's glued. This end it's not glued, but I can't pull it out. And see, we've got spots here where it's really quite wide, because that was the last string that I could pull that was not glued at this end. See, this end is only just 3 little threads. So, and at this end, at this point right here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's why if you use the fabric, you can and pull one thread, you can get a nice straight line. But this is going to work just as well. And again, I just glued both sides, let it sit, and then I pulled all of the long strings out. So let's go ahead. I'm going to trim off this bit right here that's sticking out. There we go, get rid of that. And what I'm going to try and do is make sure that I keep this straight when I fold it over. We want these lines to be as straight as possible. And then I'm just going to glue it down here. Once I get it started, then they should stay fairly straight. And they don't have to be perfect. If I found out that they were off when I put this down, I wouldn't try and peel it apart. I would just leave it that way. Yep, see, they are getting off here a little bit, and that's just because of the type of burlap that this is, because it was such a loose weave. Now it looks like we're getting right back on track again down here. And by having the more across this way like this, that's just going to give you a bigger bottom. A bigger kind of like base on the bottom of it. So, but depending on what you're going to use it for, you know, that can just be covered up also. You can use your crepe paper and dye it green and wrap it around a stick and wrap it around the very bottom, the base part I was talking about. That would be this part down here. And, you know, and make it look like the bottom of the flower and the stem. Or you can use, they call that like floral tape to do that. So if you're going to put it on something where that base is not going to be seen, then you don't have to do anything to it. And you can use these to, like, if you have a styrofoam ball, you can make a bunch of these and pin them to a styrofoam ball so you don't see that base at all. It's down next to the styrofoam ball, and if you fill it all up, those don't show at all. It actually makes the ball that much bigger all the way around, and those look really pretty. But when my daughter decided how she wanted to do her wedding, she wanted to do country elegant. And I said, I'm not really sure there is such a thing. Because my kids grew up on a farm. We raised animals the whole time that they were younger, and they were in 4-H and everything. She wanted it to be beautiful, but she wanted that country, rough sawn wood, you know, burlap type of wedding. And I found these flowers on YouTube somewhere. I could not tell you where now because that was a long time ago. And they were I really thought that they were they kind of turn out quite elegant. Okay, and if you, we got that spatula last week, so you could use that for your hot glue because it does come through the burlap. So be very careful if you have tender fingers. Even if you don't have tender fingers, be careful not to burn yourself. Now I'm going to cut this end off. Get that out of the way, and then we're just going to roll this one and see. This one is going to be quite large. Now this one is the same width basically as the other one that we just did. And I actually glued this one about a week ago. And so even my Elmer's glue is has gotten quite hard. Just keep it tight. And keep a good hold on it so that the hot glue doesn't let go. And try and keep your bottom part lined up. at the bottom, especially with these, because you're going to have different widths of, oops, did I lose my glue stick or did I use my glue stick? Hold on just a second, I'm going to hold this and grab another glue stick. There we go. Just keep going until you get to the end. And I've never made one with this type of burlap ribbon, so we'll have to see how well it puffs with those uneven bottom edges. And now you could, if you're going to make this smaller, you could pull one of the strings that will go all the way across and use that as your straight line on each side. You could pull a string and make it straight on each side. We're almost to the end. Now this one, I think that this ribbon is about 3 inches wide. Let's see if it tells me. Yep, this is 3 inches wide. So when you're making the big, large flowers, if you have the material, they look really nice 4 and 5 inches wide. And that gives you a really nice full flower. Because look at how big our base is. Okay, and make sure that that's held together well. I'm just gonna, again, you can fluff it like this. Now this is quite dense and quite full. So I am going to just put it on my box and give it a good twirl. Brush off the glue that I got on it. Well, that was kind of messy. I should have put it on my table. But there we go. That's what that one turned out like. I am going to squish it again. And you can even kind of squish them like this. Make sure that they're looking the way that you want them. And then you can do this and take something like your jar of stones or whatever and put that on there and let it sit for just a little while. Let those threads relax and, go into that shape so that they don't, come back in on the bigger ones. But this is what this one looks like. And then here is our white one. So this is a lot longer and basically it's fuller, but because it's only 3 inches wide, which is the same as this one is, they're almost the same size. So if this had been 5 inches, it would have been looser like this because these would have been so much taller and it would have been bigger around. So, and then again, if you give them some time to do like that, then that's also going to make them bigger. So I hope that you enjoyed these burlap flowers. They are fun to make, little bit time consuming, but definitely worth it. They're so pretty, and a lot of people were they really liked it. They thought that they were very pretty flowers and wanted to know like what they were made out of. It's like burlap, which they kind of thought they were beautiful for being made out of burlap. So okay, well, I'm going to show you what we need for next week. Next week we are going to make mini jelly plates. So we will need 2 bottles of glycerin, and these are $3.88 a piece. We will need 7 packets of Knox gelatin. You can get a 4-pack for $1.48, so you'll need 2 4-packs of Knox gelatin. And so we'll need 7 packs of those. We will need this package of cookie cutters, comes from the Dollar Tree in their kitchen section. And that is what we're going to need for next week. So we have 4, 8, $3 for the Knox gelatin. So that's 8, 9, 10, 11, $12 for next week. Let me put that there for just a second and have to grab my book. Okay, so $12 for next week. We had $19.50 in our bank after the burlap roses. We're going to spend an extra $7 this week, which will leave us with $12.50 in our bank. And again, we are buying the 2 packages of glycerin, 1 package of these big cookie cutters, and 7 little packs of Knox gelatin. Well, little packs. They are, let's see here, because I have a large pack because I use this to make finger jello and I use it to make different things. Well, they come in a packet like this, and that's the size they come. So you'll need 7 of these packets. And if you, oh wait, I might have it written down in here. There's 7.06 grams in 1 packet. So you'll need a total of 49.7 grams. So, and what I'm going to do is I am going to make up the gelatin, or I'm going to make up the jelly plate before the next video, and then we will go from there so that you don't have to go through all of that again. So, to make the jelly plate, I did it at week 15 of Build Your Stash and Craft, and I went through it step by step showing you the whole thing. So if you need to see how to make the jelly plate, it's week 15, and I'll try and remember to link it below. So thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. I hope that you enjoyed the burlap flowers. I really liked making them, and you can make them out of regular burlap. You can make them out of the burlap, well, I call it ribbon, but whatever that is. So, and don't forget, save your strings because they do come in handy. Thank you very much for watching. I really do appreciate it, and I hope that you all have an outstanding day. Bye-bye.